There we go.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the August 24th, 2025 Gordon Burnell Governance Council regular meeting. And do I have a motion to commence our meeting at 4:04 p.m.?
I motion that we start our meeting.
Thank you, Sawa. And do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Charmaine. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you all. We have commenced our regular meeting on August 21st. And we're going to do a quick roll call so that everyone, who might be watching this recording can know who's in attendance. My name is Martha Hughes, and I am the board president. And I'll pass it off to Beth and those in the room.
Thank you, Martha. My name is Beth Dorado, and I get to be the director here at Gordon Burnell.
My name is Deb DeTore, and I'm a member of the board.
I'm Rufus, and I'm the front desk.
I'm Michelle Staley, and I am a board member.
Sabai Jati, board member.
Jermaine
Tina.
Carter, board member.
Tina Martinez, board member.
Leilani Maldonado, school social worker at MDC.
And Chris Cazone, principal at MDC.
Erica Rivas, note taker.
Hi, I'm Jody Brichet. I'm a board member.
I thought we were all here.
And I'm Sammy Marquez, the business manager.
Great. Did we get everybody? I think so. Our next item on the agenda is to approve today's agenda. So let's take a quick look at that. Thank you, Beth, for always having our documents up for us and for navigating them. Any questions or comments before we move toward approval? Okay. And we also had a suggestion about taking roll on votes in a virtual setting that, it's hard for viewers to know if everyone voted yay or nay. And so I might try something a little bit new today. We will do a motion for a first and then a second, but then in between, I'm going to ask if there are any nay votes. And then I'll ask then for all those. And so in favor, I haven't figured out the wording quite. We'll get there eventually, but it was just sort of a suggestion that I'm going to try out for today, just so that we can assure viewers as well as like amongst ourselves that there aren't any like dissenting voters that we're perhaps missing. And so that way it is clear that we are voting like all in favor or not. So do I have a motion to approve today's agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Thank you, Deb. Do I have a second?
I'll
I
second
second.
to approve the agenda. Oops.
Thank you, Jody. Do I have any who are not in favor? Okay, there are none. So all in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. We have approved today's agenda. And we're also move on to approval of minutes from the July meeting. So we'll take a quick look at those. Any questions or comments on these first? No corrections for this time? Okay, good. Do I have a motion to approve July's meeting minutes?
I motion to approve July's meeting minutes.
Thank you, Charmaine. Do I have a second?
I second to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Sabah. And do we have any who are not in favor of approving the minutes? Okay. So then all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We have approved July's meeting minutes. And here in the public comments, I'm actually going to take a little space for public comments because some of the related topics will be coming up throughout the meeting. So I wanted to share, I've shared with a few board members already and with Beth, and I want to share with the rest of you that I'm expecting my first child in January. And so obviously that means I'm going to need a little time off. And so I'm anticipating taking off in January, February, and March. And I've spoken with Sabah about January. Since he's had the opportunity of leading a couple meetings, he feels comfortable leading our meeting in January. And so I'd like others to think about volunteering for February and or March. You know, we can kind of pass it around, give folks a chance of leading the meeting. That would also include a short meeting the week before to meet with Beth to plan the agenda, kind of talk about, you know, if you have any questions for the upcoming meeting. And we just had our finance committee meeting, so that also made me think, Deb, if you are available to come to those, so that we have at least 2 members coming to the finance committee meetings January through March. If for some reason you're not able to come to one of those, then maybe we'll check in with Tina to have a little bit of coverage there. And so later in the meeting, when we talk about some upcoming opportunities for training, we might also start to talk about, you know, 5-year terms and folks who are going to be transitioning off the board at 5 years and looking at like kind of board continuation as well as like board leadership. So I just kind of wanted to share that now because, like I said, there'll be a couple times that the topic will come up throughout the meeting. So
Congratulations, Martha.
thank you.
Very exciting.
Yeah, maybe I'll have some time that later on when I'm coming back to the board, I can bring baby with me to one of the meetings.
That'd be lovely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Yeah, so I'm going to pass it off to Beth for other public comment time.
Sure. I want to acknowledge that while there is an action item in relation to Rufus, who's my staff member of the month, Martha and I did connect, and I agree with her suggestion that we're gonna table that action item when we get to it and hold that discussion in a closed session at the next meeting. I apologize, but for not catching it sooner when I met with Martha, but personnel issues really are supposed to be discussed in closed meeting outside of the recorded time. And so we'll return to that. But I still am super excited to introduce Rufus today and give you an opportunity to get to know him a little bit, and that also could be helpful as we return to the discussion in a closed session at the next meeting. So I met Rufus a long time ago when I was not the director of Gordon Burnell, but I was the school counselor out at MDC. He was a student in that space and a BO which is a kind of, he was serving in a janitorial position for MDC, which also meant that he supports our BOs out there, often support us in the classrooms as well in a tremendous way. And so he is a graduate of our program, and he's been closely involved in a lot of alumni discussions, and he's on an alumni listserv. And when we were looking to fill our community school coordinator position this year, we advertised heavily in our alumni circle in hope that we could bring another graduate on board as a staff member. He interviewed extremely well for that position, Chris Pauls, who will join us next month in closed session, if you all are agreeable to that, he's willing. But he held several interviews with Rufus and ended up conditionally offering him the front desk position. And so Rufus brings with him a great deal of experience in terms of what our students are struggling with when they're trying to manage school and lives. And in the short time that he has been at the front desk, he certainly has picked up quite a bit of what we've asked him to do. He continuously shows that he's able to just be open to
Yes.
working with students. His professional experience includes some work as a security guard, so he's super good at like, I didn't let that guy in, Miss Beth, until I know that he's actually got a meeting with you. And I appreciate that because security has been on Chris Paul's mind for quite some time. So Rufus brings life experience, professional experience, and a real obvious care for the people that we work with. Rufus, I
Yes.
didn't prep you very well for this, and I apologize.
It's
But
okay.
I do ask staff members of the month a couple of questions. And one is just to share a little bit about what you do at the school, but more importantly, to talk about how you see our vision and mission play out in everyday life. So that idea of changing lives from the inside out, how do you see that in the couple weeks you've been with us?
Couple of weeks that I've been with you guys, I see exactly what you guys are doing, not trying to do. And the way that you guys are implementing change with kids,
Mhm.
because they're not adults yet. They are, they're with it. You know what I mean? There's no resistance because you guys are open and honest. And that's probably something that they're not getting at home. And when they come here, some have a little bit of not resistance as far as coming to school, but you can tell that once they get here, they open up. If that makes sense. Because I work at the front desk and everybody come through here, you got to smile. You can't come in here and be looking like something's going on. If something's going on, hey, let's find somebody to talk about it so you can breathe and you can learn. And they're all gravitating towards what's really going on with what you guys are doing.
It's busy down there.
It's real busy.
It's
It's definitely busy. And I don't let nobody in. Well, I let some people in. But when it comes to adults, I don't let them in without finding out who they are and what they're here for. And after that, then I'll go ahead and I'll let them in. Now, your mom, I had to let her in though. I didn't question her too bad at all.
That's good.
But-
She has the sweet old lady look, hopefully.
Yeah. She's like, I'm just bringing to drop these off. I'm like, are those? And she said, oh, they're the diplomas. I was like, oh yeah, come on. I was like, you know what? You don't even have to sign in. And I usually make everybody sign in. If you come in on my side, you got to scan. Just so we know who's been in and out of the building, just in case something happens. So, I mean, I see what's going on. And hey, I'm just glad to be a part of it because some things that I'm good at, I can implement it to where I can keep certain things from happening.
Thanks, Rufus.
You're welcome.
That's good to meet you, Rufus. Thanks for sharing more about your position.
And we
You're
will
welcome.
invite you back again next month,
Okay.
where we have a slightly different setup. You're welcome to stay and kind of see what a board meeting looks like.
Mhm.
Most people, after they introduce themselves, scurry off because we've still got quite a bit of time and a large agenda, but that's up to you. If you want to stay a little while, if you want to stay a long while, if you want to excuse yourself, all
I
are.
appreciate it, but I'm gonna scoot because there might be things you guys need to talk about, you know, and you know, I could take my ears and go somewhere.
Awesome. Thank you,
And
Rufus.
hey, I'm here if you need me. You know where to find me. I'll be at the door.
Appreciate you,
Hey,
Rufus.
thank you.
Take care.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Beth. Yeah, and we'll touch base on past business. did you want to lead that conversation? Because I know in your director's report, you did have some updates there
Yeah,
to
I
share,
mean,
Beth.
I am really trying to keep track of requests and circle back to them. So it has been a couple of meetings, but Michelle, when we had reviewed and passed the new phone policy and digital device policy, Michelle had asked some questions about how we were being conscientious and responsive to students who might have an accommodation in their IEP that allows them to listen to music or something on their phone, and how we were making sure that that wasn't making people uncomfortable or breaching confidentiality in terms of them having an IEP. And so I shared a response that was crafted in collaboration with our special ed director and Chris Pauls, who is the administrator on the high school side down here. Essentially, that at this point, we don't have any students in with an IEP that allows them to use their phone during those times. But if we did, essentially, you know, the benefits would be weighed, and that type of accommodation would be approached in the same way that a read aloud would be, or any other way that might identify students in that category. And so I'll defer to Michelle if the response, the written response in the director's report, or anything that I just said verbally is kind of helpful in making sure that there is some things in place around confidentiality and anti-discrimination, or if there's further discussion that might be warranted.
No, I read that. I thought it was well worded, and it made sense to me. And probably if a student does come in, then we could check in with the student that they are feeling that their rights are protected or things like that. So it seemed good to me, and I appreciate that was followed through on very much. Thank you, Beth. I know it's just extra work when I bring some of these things up, but after working over 40 years in special education and with individuals with disabilities, it's hard to take it out of my mind.
I appreciate the perspective, Michelle, and really will make note and be sure to engage with students who are in those situations in the future, and make sure that they know their rights and feel that they're being honored. So I think beyond just the statement, I think that the follow-up with individual students and making sure that they have a voice is well received, that suggestion. So thanks, Michelle.
All right. Well, we're going to move into current business then. So I'll invite Sammy to do a finance review. We did have our finance committee, and it went pretty quickly beginning of the year. Nothing too crazy. So we'll pass it off to Sammy.
I am going to turn on the camera just because I am having connection issues. So just so you make sure that you guys can hear me. Beth, I'm going to request to share.
Oh, mine, sorry, I have to stop sharing.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So we did have a few bars on our budget today, budget and some is for our library. Basically, the state does the reconciliation, see how much money we have left, and then they actually create them for us. And so ours is an increase of $347 that we have been given in prior awards that carried over. We do have an initial budget for our Ed Fellows program, educational fellows. They are our educational assistants who are working to become teachers. And so we're supporting them in that way using this grant. We also have initial budget for one of our Bernalillo County grants. And I'll let Beth explain this one because she did a great job in the finance committee of explaining it.
We're expecting 2 county grants that will be both housed in this fund. We did get another $30,000 to support with short-term housing vouchers. And we're working with a community partner to lead that initiative instead of leading it internally. That's not what this money is. This is a partial budgetary authority of the other grant that we have an award letter for from Bernalillo County. We received $52,000 to support the expansion of our pathway navigation program. We hired Atiliana Montoya, and that $52,000 covers her salary and benefits. Appears to be a clerical error, and someone at the county is looking into it for us. We have an award letter for $52,000. We have a contract for $52,000. We have a purchase order for $30,000. And so we have budgetary authority over that first $30,000, and we're expecting the rest of that paperwork to get cleaned up and another couple bars to encumber or to get budgetary authority, over the remaining balance of this grant and then the housing one as well.
Perfect.
Hope that made sense.
And then we do have another initial budget, and this one is pretty large. This is the money for our adult ed program. And so we do have multiple funding sources within the HED higher education department. They manage all of it and it flows through them. But we do have 5 different awards that we were given for this as well. And so that's the $453,000. I'm going to jump down to this final increase. This is the Universal Free Lunch Program. So at the end of the year, we budgeted based on what we had last year, and the award letters came out just recently. And so we did have a small increase of about $4,000 for that program as well. And then we do have 2 transfer bars here, one for operational, one for our CSI grant. Transfer bars are just cleaning up the fund. And so we don't have an increase or a decrease, just a 0 here because we're moving within our budget. Any questions on any of these? No? Alrighty. We did look at them a little bit closer in the finance committee meeting, went through them. If nobody has any questions, we'll go ahead and move on to our graphs. So here, of course, we're not going to have too much to compare since we are in our first month of the school year, fiscal year. Here, looking at our projected expenditures versus budgeted expenditures.
We lost you.
Sammy, your audio is breaking in and out again. We've lost you.
Maybe if those of us that are on Zoom, if we close our videos, it might help her.
I don't think so.
It did a little bit ago. I turned back on when she got to be clear.
Yeah, I think that's more from her side, though. I don't know if it would really help for us to go off video.
Sounds good then.
Better?
That's about the
Gone. Let's see.
She's jumping in on her phone.
Unmute her.
Can you hear me? Oh no.
Just a bit of an echo.
Sammy, if you turn off, if you don't only mute yourself, but also turn off the sound on your laptop, then you should get rid of that loop.
Sorry, I thought I did. I clicked.
Yep, perfect. We
Clicked
hear
the
you.
wrong
We
button.
hear you perfectly now. Thank you.
Perfect. Okay.
No stress.
Oh, good. This keeps happening on my meetings, so Beth said I need a hardwire in. I do.
Get off Wi-Fi with it.
Okay. So what I was saying is just looking at our projected expenditures versus budgeted expenditures. We're just looking at the sum of our budget that we are approved for, and then our sum of our estimated is just looking at how much we're expecting to spend, and this would be a combination of our actual expenditures as well as any encumbrances. And so we just want to be within that budgeted amount. Same thing here. This is just looking at our operational fund, and so we have about 1.8 million right now estimated, but some of our budget is about 4.4 million. Then we always like to look at our projected budget balance used by fund. So this is breaking it out by fund. Again, we don't have anything to compare it to since we're in our first month. We will hopefully be seeing these numbers increase all of our reimbursable funds. We want to start encumbering them as much as we can. And there may be a little bit of a timing issue in some of these reports as well, because we did encumber our jobs in August when we had our first payroll. And so this, you just don't see those necessarily being reflected as of yet. Looking at our current year revenue versus budgeted revenue, again, first month we have not received a lot of revenue at this point. Our main one is just our SEG that we did receive here. Our yearly comparison, not a large change from year to year thus far. We will see it probably go up a little bit more in August just because of our mandated salary increases and benefit increases. We'll see that go up. Looking here at our estimated expenditures by function and object, here in our function code, this is looking at our instruction and instructional support. Again, this number is subject to change based on when those jobs were encumbered. To make sure that we are including all of our instructional staff, it may go up a little bit more next month. But something that we also need to consider and just remember, our administrative cost is high because we do have a director, a principal, and an assistant principal. And so our admin staff does take up a large chunk of that percentage. You'll see here at the 26%, but we do need that for the school to run. And so that is why we will always have a higher percentage here versus our instruction and instructional support. The 56% is okay for now, we're good, but just always something to consider when we're looking at what we're spending at our instruction and instructional support. Any questions on those? No? Alrighty. Looking at our cash balance, we are at about a 5.91 right now, which is great. That's where we wanted to be. We've always had a very high cash balance, and so we were able to get it more where we wanted it. We did spend money on certain things that we were planning on buying anyway late last year, so we should be good there. There has not been any mention of a cash sweep, so we are good there. There has not been a special session or anything, and so we should be good for the rest of the year with our cash. And this will change as we go through the months, not just, you know, as our money fluctuates, but also because how we calculate this number is based on averages. And so we'll see what we're spending on average over the next few months and get more of an accurate depiction. Our budget analysis, this is a more detailed breakout of one of the graphs above. So we're just looking at how much money we have budgeted, how much we've spent, how much we have encumbered, and then what is left. You'll see we do have a few negatives here. It is because we are pending bars for all of these. Lease assistance will be negative until we get our award letter, which we did just submit all of our applications last week. And so hopefully we'll get it by January or so, and then this will no longer be negative. Any questions on any of these? No? Alrighty. Looking at our checklisting report, the only thing that I really wanted to point out here was that we did pay our annual risk insurance payment, and so that was a large payment of $75,000. Other than that, there wasn't anything that really stood out to me, but does anybody have any questions? No? Perfect. Of course, going into more of our detailed reports, we have our account summary report. This is a listing of all of our accounts that we are using for expenses as well as revenues. So you'll just see all of those account codes, all of our different funding sources. We have our balance sheet report looking at our assets, liabilities, and change in fund balance. And then we have our statement of revenues and expenditures and change in fund balance. And then our bank reconciliation where we do zero out. And our outstanding check listing is minimal, which is great. We don't have any stale dated checks. I do know that one of these was already reissued and the other one will likely be reissued soon as well from May. But other than that, everything else looks good. And we do balance out to our 7/31 bank statement here. Any questions on anything? No? All right, well, that's all that I have.
Thank you, Sammy. All right, well, we'll go into our action item related to finance. So that is the approval of accounts and payroll vouchers as well as the bars. So do I have a motion to approve accounts and payroll vouchers?
A motion to approve the accounts and payroll vouchers.
Thank you, Sawa. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Deb. Are there any board members not in favor of approving? Okay. All in favor of approving accounts and payroll vouchers?
Aye.
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 Okay, we have approved accounts and payroll vouchers. Do I have a motion to approve budget adjustment requests or bars?
A motion to approve the bars.
Thank you, Saba. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Deb. Do I have any not in favor of approving the bars? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Right,
Aye.
we have, oh, sorry, I'm waiting for that last one. So good, we now have approved the budget adjustment requests. So we're done with the finance portion. Thank you so much, Sammy, for your time today, and we look forward to seeing you at the next meeting. I know it's getting into auditing season, so good luck with that.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Sammy. Can you see my director's report?
Not yet, it's still on the agenda.
Yeah, I think I picked the wrong one when I noticed it after I did it. Just chose the agenda. There we go. So, as mentioned, I apologize for for not requesting the closed session. And I appreciate the suggestion that we do that better. So we'll return to that. Martha spoke briefly about some of these trainings that are being offered by the Public Charter Schools of New Mexico. I find the trainings put on by this particular organization extremely helpful. I'm super excited next week to go to a charter leader retreat that I've been to previously, in which I learn a lot. Our trainings from Kelly Callahan are also through through PCSNM. It's through this organization that she's able to work with us. And they're really trying to branch out and provide new opportunities and ways to support charter schools and their boards. And so, you know, if you're interested, these do come at a cost, and the school can cover that cost if you would like to sign up. They are in early and mid-September, so, and I don't know if there's deadlines, but you may want to check into those. Martha?
Yeah, thanks, Beth. Just to kind of add a little bit more onto there, I will be able to attend the Finance Committee fiduciary responsibilities meeting, but everyone is welcome. If you are ever interested in serving at some point on the Finance Committee, the Auditing Committee, or just in general learning more about finance for the school, we really welcome you to join the training. As Beth said, reach out to her to get signed up and have the school pay for it. The leadership training, I have other commitments at work that I need to attend to that afternoon, so I will not be able to attend that meeting. I think it's a prime time if you are interested in ever leading the, you know, governance council. That might be a good one to attend to get some idea of, you know, some of the responsibilities, you know, get prepared for that role, especially since my 5-year term will be coming up I think either October or November. We have to look at the exact dates. And most likely, I think especially because I do not live in Albuquerque anymore, it will be the end of my time serving on the board when that 5 year, not this year, sorry, the next October, November, should have made that clear. You know, so we would be looking for a new board president at that point. And I know it is always, you know, concerning, you know, the level of commitment, whether you want to take that on. I also had a lot of those concerns when I was being asked to be the board president. It took me several months before I like finally agreed of like, okay, I could do that. And yeah, it has been a wonderful opportunity to grow my skills. It really is not that much more of a commitment. Like I said, it's meeting with Beth the week before to plan out the meeting, leading the meetings themselves, some of the things that we sign off on, but I wouldn't say that, you know, it's, you know, that much more of a time commitment than just serving on the board in general. So if that's something that you're interested in, again, please reach out to Beth, especially considering my 5 year term limit is coming to an end. Deb will have to talk about, you know, because your time limit is also coming to the end next fall, whether you would want to extend to another one. Jody's will be next shortly after, you know, that following spring, and then Charmaine's. So there's a good handful of us that are kind of coming up to reaching that 5 year term. And so it's, you know, up to you individually whether you want to renew and do another 5 year term, or if you would like to start looking for replacements. But especially we do need to have a board president. So that's something for everybody to start thinking about. Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate all of those comments, Martha. If you all remember, our board completely turned over almost 5 years ago, and so 5 of the 7 current members are coming up on their term ending. I think that, you know, it would not be unheard of if any of Deb or Charmaine or Jody or even Sabah to think about extending. I don't think you have to sign up for a whole nother 5 years. I think that we could look at an extension, you know, that is less than that, but it is, I think, important for everybody to be thinking about that commitment and their own personal timelines. I certainly don't want to find the school in a position where lots of people drop off and we have not done the work to recruit and retain members. Not having a functional school board will have very significant and critical impact on the school. And so if you are thinking, you know, that my term is kind of coming to an end, as Martha has shared, she's not necessarily looking at renewing a whole or even a part of a term. And so if others are thinking that way, then I think the board as a whole needs to be aware and involved in recruiting new members, so that we're not in a position where we're out of compliance or struggling to get quorums. I think, you know, the board can operate on a minimum of 3, but 5 to 7 is really best practice and ideal. And I appreciate everybody being reflective and reaching out to Martha or myself if you want to talk a little bit more about your own personal situation. And if you are thinking about completing your term, please help me engage in finding someone to replace you would be my big request. So appreciate everybody. We talked about old business. I want to kind of leave some space for you guys to spend time on board priorities today, since we didn't have a large agenda. So I'm not going to go into all of this, but very willing and able to talk about anything that I don't cover. Our 5-year strategic plan is something that I do want to engage in more conversation with, but we'll save that for when we get to board priorities. I was able to share a few examples. Cottonwood Classical and Los Puentes shared their current and previous 5-year strategic plans as a way to help us get kind of oriented. If you haven't looked at your Monday morning memos, it's a great place to keep up on what things are going. We are very busy restructuring professional learning communities, and that's feeling really good. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about some of the performance framework things. The DASH plan that I have linked here is not the final version that was approved, but we were approved. And the final version really just has a few kind of edits and clarifications. We will go into that in more detail in the September meeting because it does, now that it's approved by the PED, it also does need to be reviewed and approved by you. So that will be recurring. I'm so super grateful for the hard work of Sammy, our business manager, and of Alicia Bigger, our special education coordinator. We received almost perfect site visit reports from APS in their categories. And so while there are a few things, of course, as there always are, where we can internally improve, and the number of audit findings last year was kind of lowered our rating a little bit on the business management side. But all in all, these are really performance framework components to be proud of. And so I certainly am. I did want to spend a little more energy on kind of talking about PED accreditation. This is new and messy right now in terms of how the public education department rolled it out, how they're collecting data, and how they're determining compliance. I am not alone in appealing many of the decisions or many of the things that were, and I'll actually open this one. So there are state statute has in several places discusses the requirement that the public education department is accrediting schools. And in the many years that I've been working with them, they never have. So at some point, someone decided, oh, we need to do this. And so they rolled it out a couple years ago, the notion. We did hear about the framework last fall, and then come spring, and they accredited every school because they didn't really trust their results. So all of this not collected does not mean that we didn't submit it. It means they didn't know how to collect it. As an oversight agency, PED did not have the mechanisms in place to collect that data. So every single school, charter school and district in the state got not collected on components 8 and 9 and their subcomponents. And so, you know, just shows that they're struggling to roll this out. I appealed all 3 of the Indian Ed ones and have been told that my accreditation letter will change. And there is lots of controversy about some of these other ones as well. The school enrollment one, nobody was in full compliance in the whole state, not a single school or district. And also some of these other ones are going to be difficult for us to show full validation in. But anyway, I just wanted to highlight that this is a program or a tool in progress and is really controversial at the moment. Lots of charter leaders and superintendents are pushing back about how compliance can be measured when standards are never defined, and in how we can be graded on items that are not fully being collected in ways that are transparent. So that being said, we're accredited for the year. And one thing that I do think is can come out of this that could be really positive is the you know, idea of never really understanding what PD is looking for. I think this over time will become a tool so that we all know exactly what PED is looking for. There are a lot of recommendations and guidance and statutes and mandates, and it's hard to keep track of them all. So once some of the logistics or the details are kind of worked out, I do see this PED accreditation tool as a way to keep track of what's important to them, and make sure that it's also a priority for us. And so I think there's an opportunity for alignment that can be really positive. And I am certainly lined up with a large group of leaders who are appealing some of these findings and asking for more transparent guidance as we move through this year. So I did want to highlight that. Is there anything else in the report that I didn't cover that people have questions about or want to spend a little time on? Cool.
Thank you, Beth.
Mhm.
All right. So in terms of, I think we should go down to our last action item before we start getting into like our board priorities. Beth, I know you mentioned tabling the discussion until September's meeting. Is it something that you would prefer we have a special session on and have an agenda out with a closed session so that way the discussion happens sooner?
That is a really good suggestion. I have had some concern about, a continued employment without board approval, considering technically right now we would be out of compliance with policy, right? I think that there are ways to mitigate that. We're currently not putting Rufus in any situations where he is unsupervised. He's in a public space the entire time that he's on campus, but a month is a long time, and will be after the auditors are here. And so it may, I don't know if the board is amendable or schedules can be, mitigated for a special session. I wouldn't be against that. It might be in the best interest to have that discussion sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think I would be in favor of having a special session, especially because I know that I have a commitment at 6 during our next board meeting date. And so I would hate to have to like cut any kind of discussion short when I have to leave the meeting. And also, as you said, just not wanting the issue to wait an entire month in between when we had planned on discussing it this month. Are there any suggestions for upcoming dates and times that might work for folks? Should we try to stick to, sort of a Thursday afternoon like we normally do with board meetings? Is that a good time for folks if we were looking at like, say, next week, Thursday afternoon at 4 or so?
Can't just do a closed session now.
We can't because the agenda
Put it
wasn't
in the
posted, so
agenda.
the agenda has to be posted 72 hours prior. And so I think that we would essentially be in violation of the Open Meetings Act if we did that today,
So we're
unfortunately.
talking next.
And my
Thursday, the
apologies.
28th.
But now I'm confused because if it's closed session,
Why do we have to post it?
why do we have to post it with an Open Meetings Act?
Because the community needs to be informed of when we are meeting and, what's on the particular agenda. And so that they are aware ahead of time of what will be going on during a particular meeting. So I know
Okay.
that a closed session does not have any community members that participate in it, but they do need to know ahead of time that it is part of our agenda and scheduled. We can't just, randomly insert something into our agendas.
Okay,
So the agenda would essentially be the closed session. So it
Okay.
wouldn't need to be a long meeting. We wouldn't have any other action items except the one. We could move right into closed session, and then come out. So, and then when we come out of closed session, what we would record and get in the minutes would be the results of the decision made. And all personnel matters should be reviewed in closed session. So again, I apologize for the oversight and the inconvenience, but we can't do it today.
So Beth, if we, at next week, if say we have our meeting and we all agree or disagree about Rufus's employment, can then you do that immediately, or do we have to make it still part of the regular agenda?
No, you can vote in a special session. And
So
you would
we
probably
be-
vote, I can double check. I'll reach out to Kelly and get some guidance around this. And make sure that I get it back to the board, but my understanding is we would start the meeting in an open meeting with the agenda posted 72 hours prior. We could say that what we're going into closed session for to get that on the record, and then we turn off the recording, don't take notes, and don't invite anybody but the board and whoever you want in the closed session. You go in a closed session, you have your conversation. You come out of the closed session, you vote again on the record while being recorded and minutes are taken. And then that vote becomes public record. And we can move forward with the decision that you make.
Any day next week at 4 works for me. I know somebody said Thursday at 4 works for them.
Because we're looking at next week, either a Tuesday or a Thursday will be flexible. I have class at 4 on the 27th, so I cannot do that.
Okay, so and Charmaine says she has availability on September 4th, but can't yet confirm for the 28th whether she's available. I think, you know, the important part is to make sure that we would have a quorum, and then, you know, if for example, there's a board member who cannot attend, they could, you know, let us know their opinions and, you know, their concerns in a message just to me, you know, and I could share that with the rest of the group during the closed session. Let's see, Charmaine, what about next Tuesday, since Jody said that was availability for her, or anybody else? Is Tuesday a possibility for
Retired,
folks?
everything works for me in the afternoons. Oh, I love the life.
Next week is hard for me, Martha.
Yeah.
I have my kids all week, and then they have a bunch of after school activities, and to be honest with you, they're not quite stable yet because they just started, and so I just need to check it, firm up a little bit of what they have going on next week.
Okay. And then the 4th is the following, so that would be 2 weeks on Thursday. Does anybody have availability? So Charmaine might have availability on the 4th, other folks, so we could push it a little bit further out, have a little bit more time to plan for it.
The 4th is open for me.
It works for me as well. The 4th works for me too.
Okay.
How long
Tina?
I was trying to find it in the handbook and I couldn't. How long's a probationary period for Gordon?
The whole first year is considered essentially nobody has a secure job until they complete their first year of their contract, and that's set by kind of a PED in terms of school. There's statute, it's not even PED, it's the legislature, but there's school employee statute that whole first year we can terminate without cause. Essentially, it's all a probationary, and his current contract and everyone's contract states that all employment is conditional pending background checks and decisions related to them. So what would be helpful, I think, to me was for the board to have a decision and for us to have that on file before the auditors come in mid-September. Because they often do look at new hire paperwork and ensure that we're compliant there.
Yeah.
So, I know that you also had said Chris Pauls would like to attend the discussion and the board could decide whether, he joins the closed session or not. Was it your intention that Rufus would also join the closed session or?
I think that's your decision, but he is, that's, I think, what he's expecting. But that's your decision. If you wanted to bring in Rufus and then have him step out, bring in Chris and have him, I think you guys get to determine who is present during your closed sessions and for what reason. And so you don't need anybody present. If you all wanted to, if you feel like you have enough information based on the two statements you've received, you could meet without anybody joining you. You could have me, you could have Chris, you could have Rufus, you could have some combination in a one-on-one as a group or nobody. I think those are all decisions that as a board, you get to make.
So Beth, you have his background check and that's
I do.
where the problem lies,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. Did I not send you the background check?
No,
So you just told us.
Just the
about-
statement?
Yeah,
I thought I had attached them. I can certainly get that out to you guys as well. That was my intention was to scan them both in one PDF. I apologize.
So let's just check in. It sounded like for the majority, you are available Thursday, September 4th at 4 p.m. Does that sound like a good time for the closed session?
works for
The
me.
special.
Yes.
Or special session with a closed
With a
session in
closed
it.
session.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I don't know if you guys want to kind of decide who you want to invite to that. I think that also might be helpful for you to know and for me to arrange.
Yeah, I think it might be worthwhile to have the board, just the board, go into the closed session for a few minutes to have some discussions, come up with some questions perhaps, and then to invite Rufus in to perhaps ask some follow-up questions. And then Rufus could leave, or be sent to the waiting room again for a little bit. And then have Chris Pauls come in separately, have a discussion with Chris Pauls for a little bit, have Chris Pauls leave. I know it's a lot of back and forth, but just kind of have separate session times and then have the board have the final discussion
Right, so I love that.
there and then come out of closed session, have us vote because we would have talked about, our voting. But that way everyone feels like they have a chance to speak as well as for the board to ask follow-up questions, but it won't feel like anyone is being put on the spot in front of others, hopefully.
I fully support that plan, Martha. It sounds great to me.
Any other thoughts on that or suggestions?
I like that plan. It works really well.
Okay. Also a quick note. I know we constantly have to kind of remind ourselves, I'm also at fault of it at times that it's so within like our norm of every day to respond all because we'd like to keep everyone in the loop. It is fine to respond all about questions about a quorum if you are going to attend a meeting. That is allowed so that everyone knows like who's coming and it will be a quorum. But that's really the only time that we can respond all to our entire board group. And so if there are times that you have comments, even if it's affirmations or questions, that would be considered quorum for us to have those kind of discussions all together. So just be very mindful in the future of any time we're all included in a message thread. The only time that we can reply all is if we're saying yes or no to coming to a meeting. Otherwise, please just email either Beth or myself directly if you have a comment or question about a discussion topic. Because we would hate for folks to think that we were having, a quorum discussing board related items, in a non-meeting setting without an agenda. So I know that's something that we'll keep reminding of because like I said, it's just one of those normal things that we're used to every day with emailing. The other thing too is, yes, at the moment, our quorum is 4. So if you have small committees of 3 people or fewer, that's fine. You can reply all in those spaces, but just as soon as we have 4 people or more, then that would be the quorum that we need to watch out with our responses. Okay, so let us go ahead then. Do I have a motion to table the action item to approve Rufus Byers' employment until a special session on Thursday, September 4th at 4 p.m.?
I move that, go ahead.
Go ahead, you got it.
Oh, Charmaine, you're fine. Go ahead.
Motion to approve tabling, or motion to table the approval of Rufus Byers' employment and to get it scheduled for September 4th at 4.
Thank you, Charmaine. And do I have a second to table the approval?
I'll second.
Thank you, Deb. Do I have any who are not in favor of tabling this action item? Okay. All in favor of tabling the approval of Rufus Byers' employment until our special session on Thursday, September 4th at 4 p.m.?
Aye.
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 Thanks. We have tabled the approval of Rufus Byers' employment. And again, look for that invite and please put it on your calendar now for Thursday, September 4th at 4 p.m. We do need a quorum of 4 to make any votes on the issue, and we would of course like to have everyone contribute to the discussion. Beth, if you wouldn't mind letting both Chris Pauls and Rufus
Absolutely.
know as well, and kind of let them know ahead of time what we discussed as far as, you know, how it will move forward in terms of going in and out of the closed session for questions and comments.
Absolutely.
Cool. Thank you. So let's go forward. We didn't have any like compliance and policy reviews during this session, so we do have some time to look over board priorities. I wanted to update the group that our committee, Deb, Tina, and I are going to be focused on the board's 5-year strategic plan. So this is something that is required of us. And it should be in alignment with the charter schools charter application. And that's also a 5-year application. And so that's upcoming next, like spring, summer. And so we have the goal of creating the board's 5-year strategic plan this fall. So that way, when the charter application gets written, that can kind of slip seamlessly into it. Beth provided a wonderful little like review of it in her director's report. So I appreciate that, Beth. So it does require us having, you know, some kind of goals and outcomes. You know, something that our group talked about is it's a little tricky in terms of, you know, we know our specific roles as a board are to deal with hiring and evaluation of the school director, to approve and oversee finances of the school, and to approve and oversee school policies. And so there are parts of that that all underlie, you know, school performance and student outcomes. But, you know, it's not our direct purview to oversee curriculum or, you know, the instruction of that curriculum or the day-to-day operations of the school, which then makes it feel like a little tricky of like, well, how do we fit into this? How do we make goals that are within, you know, our responsibilities and purview, but still help support the students, the school in general, and their outcomes? One of the things that we talked about is that in the last charter school application, there were kind of some umbrella priority areas that were written in that then the school had specific goals around. So the first of those was academic performance, the second financial performance, the third organizational performance, and then one around facility. And so we thought it would be good to kind of frame our strategic plan with those particular umbrella areas, and felt like that we could confidently stay within our role, but support, the goals of the school in those areas. But without having it be like we were trying to control, curriculum or day-to-day operations instruction. We are meeting on the 28th, so upcoming, we're going to take a new look at those new examples from other charter schools and hopefully get a better idea of where those sit, and start thinking about, what we could draft. So we'll continue to be in conversation with the rest of the board during our monthly meetings as far as like where we're at, or if we need input. If anyone has like ideas along the way, or for some reason notices something about a strategic plan that they thought was a good idea, please send it our way. We're happy. We can't have somebody join our group because then it would be a quorum, but definitely let us know in email. You can just email me directly if you have suggestions or questions or ideas. Related to that, we said we did need to spend a little bit of time planning our upcoming, just our yearly goals. And that was something that we got a little bit of a late start to last year, because we got the template from Kelly at our training in January. So actually I'm gonna pull that up and share it. So last meeting we took a quick look at just a second, let me make sure it's pulled up on my computer so it comes up right away. We took a quick look at our goals from last year. So again, they were, quick. Some of them we had gone through no problem. Others we still needed to, we'll be continuing to work on. And so I'd like to start to draft our coming year's goals as well. Share my screen now that it's up. Okay. So again, our yearly goals can fit into the 5-year. It can kind of help us think about, how we might want to shape the 5-year, because then going forward in the future, our yearly priorities or goals should fit into that broader 5-year plan. So our first one was, we did have a goal related to academic outcomes, and it was more of like understanding our information sharing and understanding and evaluation of the academic framework. Would anybody have a suggested objective or goal around academic outcomes for this coming year? Something that would kind of fit within that and build on what we had done this past year. Because I know we did say like, oh, we felt like we had a better system, better understanding of academic outcomes, and had talked about them usually at each of the meetings, or at least within the director's report. It can also be like around training, if there's something where we want to do professional development related to academic outcomes, that might be, like a quick win too, in terms of making a goal around ensuring that we have professional development in the issue.
Trying to think of other options that might be of interest to you guys, like maybe we do, have some time to talk about the different, what we're collecting data on internally. We could look at, what is because outcomes can mean so many things. There's outcomes that APS is tracking, outcomes that PED is tracking, and outcomes that we're more intentionally interested in terms of what we think demonstrates how students are doing. And so maybe, I don't know, we could cycle through like just diving into what some of those assessments or tools are. I'm just trying to think of what types of things might be helpful to have a better understanding of what academic outcomes are. So, we could have a section that kind of cycles through different mechanisms. I don't know. I'm just trying to think about things that might be of interest to you.
I don't know, I probably could find it, but it's probably buried by now. I did go to the training provided by PED. And that's where I got the real good thing on the orientation to new board members. There was some really interesting stuff, and Charlie, whisper. That's not a whisper. Anyway, I don't know if I could go back and find, because there was a really good presentation done by 2 individuals, and it really helped me understand some of the academic pieces, and they kind of personalized it when they saw different schools and things like that. So I don't know if that's an option of finding somebody to come in.
Yeah, let's keep that as just like a general suggestion, and then, we can continue to workshop it and make it into more of a SMART goal with some action steps. But I think that's a great idea, Beth, in terms of like, really having the deep dive, like what is PED looking at? What is APS looking at? What is Gordon Burnell looking at? And some of those differences there. And I think that would even also help us with, strategic priorities over the year.
Martha, just a quick kind of suggestion question. Would
Sure.
it be possible to have in our agendas a recurring kind of space to address any kind of academic? And that might just be a next month we have coming up WIDA testing. Here's what that is. We don't have results yet. But then it makes it so that, much like finance, it's on the agenda no matter what is going on, even if it's just to update, this is what's coming. There may not be results every single month. But just so that it becomes apparent, not only for outside people kind of taking a look inside, but if it's a common, kind of point of discussion on our agendas, I think that would fit nicely if it's a goal that we're trying to address.
Yeah, and I think that definitely fits in there because we've been trying to move towards that 30-30-30 agenda where we spend time in those different, and I think it has gotten better in terms of like we are addressing it usually during like Beth's director's report, but maybe we can have a, really more specific time around that. And like you said, what's upcoming, this is the result that has come in, and understanding that data, having questions around it. Let's see.
What's Vistas? We could just kind of if we have a space, then we could spend 10 minutes every time on something.
Just call it current business.
Yeah. Make it highlight that section under current business a little more definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. And Charmaine also commented in the chat, like whether we measure school climate from the student perspective. And that's something that actually Beth and I talked about at our prep meeting that I also wanted to share in terms of our strategic planning for the board, is that there is a staff member who is assigned to doing a stakeholder engagement survey. So they are going to be engaging staff, community members, and students throughout the year. It probably will not be fully done by the time the board is finishing up, our draft or even final of, our strategic plan, but we can definitely set some time aside to talk to her about what she's planning on doing, you know, if there are certain suggestions that we might have of asking. And so, to your point, Charmaine, I think that is going to be a good time to, you know, ask students about the climate, and see, you know, how is that going to be enacted throughout the survey in the year. So maybe that could be also like influence or collab on
The needs assessment is what we're calling it. It's
Okay.
time to, as we prepare to do our charter renewal, we're really using this year to get some quality needs assessments done. Some formally done in terms of having quite a few surveys go out around on a variety of topics, including you know, Charmaine's suggestion, I think is great, and we've talked about that as well. But this will be a big needs assessment year, so that as we draft our next charter, we can be responsive to both the needs assessment results and also the strategic plan that the board is developing. So ideally, the next charter application, again, is responsive and reflective of what the board sees as priorities, but also what students, staff, and other stakeholders identify as gaps or needs.
Right.
So,
Yeah, I think these are some
Martha-
great ideas. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, as if you'll remind me or send me an email on when the strategic planning committee is meeting again. I'll make sure that you have Kiana's contact information, and if she doesn't join this next meeting, she can join a future one and align some of her needs assessment work to the types of data that you guys are interested in seeing as you work on your plan as well. Again, I don't think she'll be done completely, but she could certainly prioritize things that are important to you to get done first.
Yep. Thank you. I appreciate that.
I actually had one more question, Martha or Beth. This may be, again, maybe like outside of the box. It could be related or it could not, but I'll put it out there anyways. So Gordon Bernal has like its own, you know, population of students and its own unique circumstances, but does APS traditional like schools, public schools, non-charter schools, I guess, do they measure or even know or have information on those students' quote unquote professional readiness, right? And if they do, how does Gordon Bernal's students compare? I know there's just one school, right, or a couple, but just out of curiosity, does it, you know, do the numbers kind of, are they similar, or is that even something that's measured? Would it be worth measuring?
I love the idea of thinking about how we measure professional readiness, right? I'm not aware of APS particularly gathering data with any metrics that are meant to describe what you're after. They do, I mean, I'm certain that there's data around things like college and career readiness. The state does collect some data on what they consider helps define that. So students who are completing certain kinds of experiences or testing on certain assessments.
They're going to, and their board goals.
Deb just pulled out APS's board goals, guide rails, and they have a goal around skills, habits, and mindsets.
How they're gonna measure it, gosh knows.
How they measure it, though, is the question, right? That I think gets to the core of what you're asking, Charmaine. Tina might know. She just came from APS not too long ago.
Before I left, APS just started rolling out, it's kind of like a culture survey. And I only saw the one that was available at elementary. So mid and high school may address more professional readiness like you're talking about, but it was a self-assessment that students were taking, I believe, twice, maybe even 3 times a year. And again, it was completely self-reported. So this was not, you know, the teacher saying, this is what I think about my students. It was the students saying, here is what I see, here's what I need. Am I happy about it or not? And I can't remember what the name of it is.
It's Panorama, Tina.
Panorama, thank you.
And several schools piloted it last year, and we're looking at implementing it this year as well. I was hesitant. Survey fatigue is a real thing, and we already survey and reach out to students quite a bit. And I was also a little hesitant because it's asks very traditional questions and doesn't ask some non-traditional questions that I think are really applicable. But it's quality standardized assessment. It's a tool, right? And so many schools across New Mexico are opting into it, and PED is actually attaching it as a requirement for some of their below the line funding applications. And so it is on our radar. There is going to be a administration of Panorama, which is a school climate survey. It's a social and emotional a gauge, a self-report that students participate in. And we are planning to participate this fall and this next spring and see if those data points help inform us as well.
Just as a, again, I'm out of the loop by like a year and some months, but in the rollout, there were some discussions with the Panorama people about whether or not schools could tailor kind of questions specifically for their population. I never found the answer to that because I left before any of that happened, but it might be worth following up if it's a good tool that could be used with our population.
Could be customized a little bit, could be really meaningful. I will follow up on that. Thank you, Tina.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Beth, after graduation, and I mean, maybe we've talked about it before or maybe not, but there, do we kind of once graduation happens, is there anything beyond that? Is there any sort of like prior to graduation, here's sort of a path to follow into that professional readiness realm, and it's not just like only the goals of just getting to graduate, because I think, probably students need just a clearer path, right? Considering all the circumstances and the obstacles and stuff that's probably, interfered, and this is where I'm just curious.
Where the rubber hits the road, right? When you got to go out and kind of navigate what's next. All of our students do complete next step plans, which is kind of post-secondary planning. We had a centralized person who did that. Denise Harmon was our career development coordinator. She retired at the end of last year, and we chose not to we intentionally didn't fill her position. And instead we funded our reading interventionist when we lost funding for her through Title I. And so that responsibility is shifting now to advisors. We are looking at a really, a PED kind of push, but a product that I really do appreciate. I'm still kind of iffy about Panorama. If we can customize it even better. I absolutely love Levelall, which is a software. It's an app that PED is purchasing for any school who's interested, that really helps assist with that next step planning. It's very interactive. It's got lots of videos. It's funny, and it's kind of silly, but it helps students do a lot of that career exploration and planning pieces. And so we're rolling that out and having advisors use it with students. We collect student information and reach out to them regularly in terms of alumni updates. That's how Rufus found out that we were hiring and applied for an open position. And it is meaningful to me how often, especially recent graduates, roll through. I was alone in the building a lot over the summer, and so every time the doorbell rang, I ran down to see who it was. I think there was 3 or 4 recent graduates that were like, I was just in the neighborhood. I forgot you guys were off. I thought I'd come say hi. And so, we actively invite them to stay involved on the career development side here. And I do think that there is a need. I think that when we do a needs assessment, I'm predicting that students are gonna ask about those kind of ongoing services, because it's scary when you move on to the next step. And I'm proud of how many of our graduates come back and visit us and check in and ask to see Chris, ask to see Jake. These types of things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Can they go on to our higher ed program?
I mean, our higher ed program is really high school equivalency. And so, but what they can participate in, people who've already got a diploma or an equivalency can get involved in our IET programs. You know, so things like our OSHA 10 certifications, our ServSafe certifications, those things are certainly open to alumni, and we invite them to join.
All right, so it looks like we have some great ideas in the area of like academic performance. So we'll continue to kind of workshop that. I can work on it in the meantime. If folks have suggestions, if you're a whiz at doing SMART goals, let me know. I'm happy to get some wordsmithing on that and some of the action steps. Our second priority item was our recruitment and retention. I think we should keep that. You know, we discussed it during the meeting that we have a lot of folks who are coming up on their 5-year term. So that would be a great priority to leave on there. I know that, yeah, we still need to beef up orientation as well and have a small folder started. But we'll get together at some point, Michelle, too, and get more of your input on the training that you did and how we can really operationalize new board member orientation and training and get all the documents needed in the orientation folder. So I'll leave this one here. Again, I'm going to be starting a new document. I just kind of wanted to capture it in this one for now. But we'll have kind of like a new goal that updates here and some new action items. And then, you know, this was, you know, also an easy one because we were starting at the end of the year, yearly priority and goal. Maybe one of the things on here, how do folks feel about like our focus priority 3 being the 5-year strategic plan? I mean, that's a big one.
It makes sense.
Okay. And I think we can probably just keep it at that. We just had 3 for last year. I mean, there's a lot within that's going to be ongoing for academic outcomes. Like we said, obviously we need to make sure the board is operational in order for the school to be operational. So that will be a big priority. And then we are required to do the 5-year strategic plan, which is already in the works. So that can be our focus priority 3. If anybody feels like, okay, we're done with the 5-year strategic plan, you know, by the end of this year, you know, December calendar year, and we want to update stuff going forward and add a priority in January, we can definitely do that. I think one of those could be like around professional development in general, of kind of like tracking or seeing if there's other opportunities for professional development. I know that folks are kind of continuously doing things on their own time as well as what we do in a group. Real quick, speaking of professional development, since I will not be around January through March, and we typically plan like our full group training in January, it might be good to look at doing our full group training earlier this year. So Beth, what do you think of in terms of budgets for continuing to have a personalized training that Kelly conducts?
That's fine. You know, the board has options. There's certainly budget to engage Kelly, and it makes sense to do that this semester if that's the choice. Remember, there are also opportunities to get all of your training credits if you are interested in attending the charter school conference. And so I can get those dates are also set as well by Public Charter Schools of New Mexico. And then there's always the asynchronous option. But the group training with Kelly is certainly within budget if the board would like to consider that again.
Okay. How do folks feel about the group training with Kelly continuing? Is that something that folks have found helpful? It's usually kind of not a full day on Saturday, not a little bit more than a half day, but And we have had folks attend some of the different conferences and get their training done that way. I know my first year coming on was doing the asynchronous, not my preferred option, just because it's nice to get the whole group together and learn together, celebrate together. Maybe then, Beth, if you wouldn't mind sending out the dates for the upcoming conference, as well as maybe checking in with Kelly about her schedule. I don't know how would beginning of December look like for folks? Would that be like a good time before it gets like too busy, later in December?
Be gone December 3rd through the 15th.
December sounds perfect.
So
I mean,
wait,
when we know like the actual dates.
Yeah, and Deb, what did you say about your
that
availability?
I'm gone December 3rd through the 15th.
Okay. I'm not sure about the calendar as far as like how much, let me double check how much space we have between Thanksgiving and the first week of
Thanksgiving
December.
is so late, it's the 27th or 28th.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe the week before Thanksgiving.
Like the 22nd or something like that.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, yeah, let's maybe look into some of those options, or we could go even, earlier, like the 8th or the 15th of November. Maybe that's not like a super busy time for
It's too
folks.
crazy.
Yeah, so maybe just in general checking in with Kelly about her availability in the fall and if she has any suggestions as well, and like how that compares to, because if I remember correctly, the conference last year was kind of that beginning of December, right?
It's also, it is in December. I do not have the dates and I don't want to, I'll
Okay.
mess up the screen by looking for them too much. but,
No, yeah, no worries.
if they're set, they're in December and I'll get them out to you guys.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to kind of bring it up at this early date so we have plenty of time to plan ahead and get rolling on that.
I'll
All
know
right,
better
well,
this year, but I will say, I think I did that stuff with the state, which is just like, oh gosh. But then going to the conference, I think if the conference had been before Kelly, for me as a new member, it would have put more pieces together and I would have been able to ask more questions. But I know a conference isn't for everybody. A lot of people don't enjoy that type of atmosphere. I like the social piece of it and ask questions from outside our own community to bring back things that might support. So,
yeah.
but
Yeah, I definitely appreciate conferences. However, I think with my work schedule now and being outside of Albuquerque, it just makes it harder for me to like take time off of work to go to a conference that's during the week. So I guess that's just my personal preference. And I know that there are several of us that still work. So a lot of times Saturday works better for folks to all get together. But yeah, if we'll try to find an option that is the best for the majority. And then, of course, there are, and if folks feel like, oh, January is still better for them, great. Like, I could do individual training on my own if need to, if it seems like for everybody else, we'd rather wait till January to do that kind of training altogether. Okay, but at least we've started to think about it, started to talk about it. All right. Well, thank you everyone for your time. I appreciate your patience in going through kind of the yearly slogs of planning and goals. It's good to kind of get it out of the way because I know meetings are just going to continue to get busier with our action items. So we definitely want to save ourselves time later on in the semester. All right. We don't have any more action items. Any other comments or questions before we move to close? All right. Just a reminder that we will send out information about our closed, special session that will have a closed session in 2 weeks on September 4th at 4 p.m. Our next board meeting will be September 18th. We still at some point will kind of fit in, maybe that can be part of our priorities or goals, as well as doing the bylaws review with checklists. You know, that's been on our list for a while, so maybe that's something to incorporate there. Our little planning group for the strategic plan will meet again, and so we'll continue to update you all as that goes along. Do I have a motion to adjourn the August 21st Gordon Burnell Governance Council meeting?
I move we adjourn the August Gordon Burnell Charter School Board meeting.
Thank you, Deb. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jody. Do I have any who are not in favor of adjourning? All right, all in favor of adjourning our governance council meeting?
Aye.
All right, thank you. We have adjourned our governance council meeting at 5:39 p.m. and I look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks for the special session.
Thank you all.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
you tremendously.
Martha does a
Thanks.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
everyone.